guys. It's Tuesday.
It is Tuesday.
We were off last week, but now we have returned. Are you excited?
Words cannot describe.
I know, I can tell. So if you are joining us, you are probably watching us live on facebook.com/popshow, where we are live every Tuesday night starting at 8 p.m., except for last week, apparently. Took the week off. Had a little chill night. It was nice, not going to lie. You could also be listening to our downloaded podcast. We are available on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Podbean. And we come to your ear holes once a week to deliver you the best in pop culture. What's going on in movies, TV, comics, you name it. We have a weekly guest talking about comic books. And tonight we are going to talk about dun dun dun.
Star Trek Discovery. Yay.
They're more excited than they sound, folks. Keith is here, but he is not on screen. As you can see, I am in the throne.
Ooh.
I had him cut that.
Solid cueing there.
That took a lot of planning, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, actually. I'm very excited. He has this big comfy chair, and now I am in the comfy chair. Yep. We're excited about it. You know, this is a matriarchy, at least for the next hour, under my control.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no, I know.
There we needed the outer limits, you know. Do not adjust the picture.
So what'd you guys do in pop culture lately? I know you've had 2 weeks to talk about.
Mostly I've been watching the Olympics the past couple of weeks.
Yep, the Olympics dominated. Although, I will say their ratings were down.
That's been the case for at least the past two Olympics.
Yep.
So
Interesting. What about you, Travis?
A lot of movies. Kind of been working my way through some of the Oscar nominee stuff and things like that. Star Trek, of course, getting ready for this.
We should say that our local independent movie theater, The Narrow, located in Norfolk's beautiful Gant neighborhood, is showing the Oscar nominees. And we love The Narrow. In fact, we have a shelf there in April that we'll talk about at some other point in the future. But have you been going to The Narrow to see your Oscar flicks?
Yeah, I was able to get 3 billboards knocked down over there, and then Lady Bird and Shape of Water.
Yeah.
So yeah, still waiting on the Post. Haven't gotten around to that one yet. But
I saw the Post at Regal when it was out, and I saw Lady Bird at The Narrow. Mm-hmm. But we posted on our Facebook page today the honest trailer for the Oscar nominees, and it made me really want to see 3 billboards.
there's a little bit of controversy going on with Shape of Water right now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, apparently someone is suing them for having stolen the story from them.
Oh.
Yeah.
So the Creature from the Black Lagoon has already been done.
Well, there's that, but there's another guy apparently wrote a story that's incredibly similar to the plot for The Shape of Water.
And he was a playwright, I think, is what it was.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So,
well then, all right.
It's a little depressing to hear that.
Yeah, that is a bummer. Well, rats. Well, you know the other big movie that everyone's been talking about? Yes.
Let's see. It has something to do with comic books.
Yeah. You're getting warmer.
Marvel.
Some sort of cat-like.
Oh, very warm. Very warm.
I'm going to go with Black Panther.
Black Panther. Now, I know all 3 of us have seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Keith and I went, let's see, it came out Thursday. We went Friday.
Yep.
And what'd you think?
I thought it was one of Marvel's better standalone films. Black Panther was not really a character on my radar very much, but if the Marvel Cinematic Universe is proving anything, it can make me interested in characters I hadn't really considered before. They've done it with Captain America, with Thor and Iron Man, and now they've done it with Black Panther.
You know who they did that with me? Was Night Nurse. The way they wove Claire through the Netflix shows, I really was invested in her character. And there were a few times particularly in Iron Fist, which I, for the record, did not think deserved all the miserable grumbling it got. But there was a few times where she did play a foil to Danny Rand, and it made me just super endeared to her, and Night Nurse is my girl. Travis, what'd you think of Black Panther?
Really enjoyed it. Like you said, I think it was a good standalone. I like that there wasn't any forced, oh, by the way, here comes Avengers, here comes Infinity War, here's a random gem out of nowhere, one of the Infinity Stones. there was none of that. There was some great world building there, and I just really liked the villain, especially Killmonger was fantastic, and for once, you had
Michael
a villain
B. Jordan
worth
killed
his
it.
weight.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. His motivation was very understandable, even if you couldn't condone it. It ties in very well with the story of Black Panther and Wakanda. And yeah, with the problem that Marvel has had with villains in the past did not exist in this film. I'd rank Killmonger right up there with Vulture. Is one of my favorites for the Marvel universe so far.
Absolutely, and don't forget, you can always go check out our movie review. We all chimed in a little bit on popshow.com. So, I'm going to share my favorite thing about Black Panther. I'm sure we will not discontinue this conversation, but my favorite thing was Shuri, because she was, or is, I guess, this awesome, female, and gave her royal brother so much crap, which you kind of have to love. Right? Like she knocks him down a peg, and don't freeze, and just teases him, which you always love, because you hate when these guys are just, it makes me think of what was the first Superman movie, the bad one, not like first ever, but
Talking about Superman Returns.
No, the one with
Man of Steel.
Yeah, Man of Steel, where he was like God. And it just got so like, okay, we get it. You have all these powers, but you're not infallible. That is not a relatable character.
That's Zack Snyder, though. That was not Superman's fault, and I will defend that movie.
I don't really consider that a Superman film, because it doesn't act like Superman that entire film.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't like that, and I like it when you can, you have to have a human story in order to appreciate it. But I love that she poked fun at him, and I loved that she was the tech. And that, I told Keith, like halfway through the movie, I leaned over and I said, this is some of the coolest tech I have ever seen. And I am very rarely impressed, because I don't know, it's just like, whatever. I'm not into tech in real life, so why would I be into it in movies?
And what I appreciated, I think, most about the film is the fact that even though it was Black Panther's movie, it really felt like an ensemble cast. Like they're not really supporting characters, like the women in his life, Shuri, Okoye, and Nakia, I think was their name. But yeah, they all felt equal characters, and the plot and Black Panther's story wouldn't have succeeded without any of those characters in the movie.
Right. Yeah. And Disney also went ahead and donated $1 million to the Boys and Girls Club out in Oakland to support STEM education, which is awesome. And what happened in the movie? Well, this is a lesser example. Yeah. Compared to the riches of all that unobtainium or whatever it's called. That's the wrong movie. What's it called? Vibranium. Yeah, whatever. What's the other fancy metal called? Adamantium.
Yeah. Okay.
They're all made up. I call them all unobtainium. Speaking of fancy things, do we have Greg with us?
Mr. Personality.
I'm in the driver's seat tonight.
From Local Heroes.
Are you?
That guy's a fireball.
He really is. I know. We're so excited to talk to him. He just brings so much life to the show.
That monotone, dreary voice.
That
he tries to modulate to no avail.
No, we love it. It's vibrant. You just breathe life into the show.
We all have our gifts.
Thank you.
So,
it's true.
Keith is here. He says hi, but I am in the driver's seat.
She forbade us from singing the song. He should probably
not talk at all, honestly.
He kind of hates that he doesn't have a mic in front of him right now.
Hey, he's the one that said he wasn't going to be on tonight.
I know.
He's the one that what?
He said he wasn't going to be on tonight. It was his choice.
Okay. You know what? I feel like it's his call to make.
Everybody needs a break every now and then, and these two guys over here are going to go on about Star Trek. So he decided to let the lady do the hosting.
I like it. You're clearly the linchpin of the show anyway, so.
Did you hear that Jefferson's theme there, Greg?
I did not, no.
Oh, he didn't hear it. Well, he just played Moving On Up, because, I've made it now in life. I am now the primary host. Anyway, there's no getting better from this. So, Greg, why don't you tell us what we can expect tomorrow from Local Heroes? Oh, well, no, first, we got to play your sweet intro. I'm sorry, I'm already screwing this up. Jeez, can't take me anywhere.
You're doing a great job.
Oh, no, I'm not doing the thing. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not doing it. Ha 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 ha. It didn't happen. Oh, Keith looks so sad.
For the record, Sarah said no. No singing.
I did say no.
What happens when she's in the driver's seat?
Okay.
I know. We're like the tiny town from Footloose now. No singing. No singing or dancing.
I kind of liked it without the singing.
See, I know. We get all the nuances of the music. Yes, thank you. Okay.
Keith, would you like to join in tonight?
No. Oh, he's so quiet over there.
I control the mics.
He does control the mics. He can mute any of us whenever he wants to. But he can't mute Greg. Greg, what are we looking forward to?
Tomorrow is New Comic Book Day, as it is every Wednesday. The things I'm excited for tomorrow, American Gods is collected for the first time in comic book form. Neil Gaiman's fantasy book. A lot of you might have watched the show on Starz. It was a novel originally by Gaiman, who is a comic book legend, but it was never a comic. So he adapted it to a comic, and the first volume is out tomorrow. So if you've been waiting for American Gods in collected form, tomorrow is your day.
Awesome.
I'll be coming over.
You watch the show? Good.
I've never seen the show. We've got the novel though, and I can't wait to read it. But it's on my stack. I'll get there.
Yeah, it's one of his best books, I think. So, also tomorrow, let's see. Help me out here. Give me what else did I send your way?
Is it Saga?
I should probably write these down. Yes.
Oh, I'm so good at guessing. It's like we're psychically bonded.
I sent these notes earlier in the day, and then I forget to write them down and totally forget what I sent you. There's a new issue of Saga tomorrow. It's special because if you've been reading it in volumes and you want to read it in single issues, which it seems like a lot of people lately have asked me when they can jump into singles, tomorrow's your day. Issue 49 is the beginning of the new story arc. And if you've been reading it in collected form and you can't wait 6 months at a time anymore, tomorrow's your day. Grab Saga 49.
Nice. Yeah, Vanessa chimed in and said that she loved American Gods and she's looking forward to the comic. And Neil said, "Comics with Greg, comics with Greg, comics with Greg." So there's no escaping.
I like it. At least if they can't sing it, they can just write it, type it out on Facebook.
Yeah, but much better than trying to subject people to my rhythmic chanting, as it were. All right, what's our last one?
The last one is The Terrifics from Jeff Lemire, who is one of my favorite comic book writers. He writes Descender. He wrote Sweet Tooth. He wrote Green Arrow when it was really good. He writes a book now called Royal City. He's a superstar, and he writes really good comics. And this is a new book from DC. It's featuring some of their lesser-known superheroes as a team. And he writes it, and it's drawn by the very competent Ivan Rice. So that should be really good. Terrifics #1 out tomorrow from DC.
I love underrepresented heroes getting their due.
Yeah.
It's cool, especially if you give it to somebody who is talented and can make them fun.
Definitely. Awesome. Well, where can Travis go to pick up these fine comics tomorrow? Because he's going. And Keith will be there too, but he's not on camera tonight, so ha.
Exactly. I'd also like to say that we did just get in the first wave of Saga Pops today. So if you're a pop collector and you like Saga, then you should run to Local Heroes tomorrow and get Saga Pops at 1905 Colonial Avenue in Norfolk.
Awesome. Well, there goes all our money.
I was like, Keith, you wouldn't happen to be a fan of Pops, would you?
I know. We're running out of shelf space here, Greg.
Let me check.
That's okay. These are the ones I've been waiting for forever, and they're finally a reality. So make it happen.
Awesome, Greg. Well, thank you so much, and we will talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week.
You too.
Bye.
You too.
Bye.
Yeah, we ran into a little bit of a sale on Pops. I mean, we literally ordered I don't know how big a case of Pops actually is, but I feel like maybe it's this size. Yeah, we ordered, it was like 12
Good Lord.
Yeah, it was a lot. We each got a Shuri. Going back to Black Panther, we each got a Shuri. We cohabitate.
One just wasn't good enough.
No,
huh?
well, we each have offices. I mean, we really should have gotten 3. Yeah, I know. We bought an embarrassing number of pops.
Pops are the thing that like I refuse to collect because I know the second I get one, it's going to be like, oh, I've got the whole crew of TNG. Yeah. Now I can get the DS9 crew. Yeah. Now I can get all the Batman the Animated Series ones. Yeah, it's
a slippery slope.
Break me.
Well, we're not doing too much news tonight, but I did see that they released images of the Pops figures for the Avengers Infinity War.
Did they?
Online today. I saw them.
So, they're getting better about toys and spoilers. It used to be that, like, they'd release toys and then that's how we knew about Big Man, Big Ant-Man. Giant Ant, Giant Man.
I don't think there's any spoilers in this image, other than unless you don't know who Thanos' lackeys are. If you don't know who they are, I guess that could potentially be a spoiler. But
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I might have to look because Pops are endearing with their cold, dead eyes. The only thing that I wish existed in Popland that doesn't is in Funko Popland, not Pop Culture Land, and none of the Mario Nintendo stuff are there. I think there's Mega Man.
They had the amiibos and stuff, I guess. So they're not going to cross-market like that.
Yeah, but Disney had their little Disney things.
Sure, but Nintendo's notoriously difficult to deal with in terms of licensing or any kind of thing with their characters.
Such stupid crap. Although Neil chimes in on Facebook and says that he wants to see a Quark Pop.
Yes.
And Vanessa recommends wedding topper pops for us, which isn't the weirdest wedding suggestion we've had. You can't have a podcast like this and be getting married and not have weird wedding suggestions. She says she wants a Toad Pop. I just want a Princess Peach Pop. That's all I want.
Would the top of the Toad Pop's head come off?
Why would the top of the?
Because they just answered that question, like whether it's a hat or like a head or like a part of their head,
like the mushroom part.
Oh, is it a hat?
Why would it,
Oh, I don't know.
I don't remember. It was a couple weeks ago, but Nintendo finally actually said this is how it is now.
So he's not an actual
if you
Toadstool?
get the Princess Peach Pop, can you make it float above the cake like in Super Mario 2?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Because that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that would just have her do it with her little feet. Oh, that's a great idea. So is he a hat or is it a hat or is it? Oh my God, that's so jarring.
Whether or not it's a hat, it should stay on.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird without it.
Sure.
You know what else is weird? Is when adult men dress as Toad.
Yeah.
That's weird. For Halloween costumes and they're walking around wearing
Is that where you draw the line?
That's where that's weird. That's where the line is.
After enough cons of seeing going to cons and seeing bronies, I'm kind of desensitized to the idea of a giant anthropomorphic mushroom.
Now, Neil is chiming in on our Facebook page, facebook.com/popshow, saying that it was an old cartoon as a hat, but that's not canon. Which, I don't know. The Nintendo Mushroom Kingdom canon, I think, is odd because there's so many games that break continuity and break the rules, and Waluigi only shows up on sporting events, and there's weird, is Wario a good guy or a bad guy, or he's just I don't know, kind of evil but not bad because you still take him karting.
Yeah. Okay, so according to Nintendo, let's see here, that is Toad's head.
Oh.
Super Mario Brothers 3. The Adventures of Super Mario 3 are non-canon.
Oh, Neil was right.
Thank you to our lovely production assistant, Keith.
So at one, he got demoted. Wow. He was a host, and then he was a director, and now he's a PA.
Personal opinion, I think it makes more sense for it to actually be his head than a hat.
I think so, too. Yeah. In turn, what do you think? Oh, burn. Okay.
He muted you. Wow. So, what do you want to talk about tonight?
I guess I deserve that. I guess I deserve that. I read it. I read something one time that I just thought was the funniest thing, and I think of it every once in a while, where Waluigi only shows up in gaming situations. So he doesn't ever show up on any games that have any storyline. He only shows up in Mario Tennis or
true.
Smash Brothers or what's the one with the board game?
Oh, Mario Party?
Yeah, Mario Party. He shows up in those, and someone says something about how like Waluigi has his whole rich life outside of it, and Wario calls him and is like, "Hey, we're gonna go on an adventure. Do you want to go?" And Waluigi's like, "Nah, but call me next
good."
time you go karting."
I mean, he has, was it Luigi's Mansion or Ghost Mansion or something like that? Didn't he have his own game at one point?
Not Waluigi.
Oh, Waluigi.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, Luigi has his
Yeah,
own plot
okay.
lines, but you know, as sad as they are, poor Luigi, poor Green Mario.
He gets to be the Nintendo Ghostbuster.
He does.
Officially.
He does. And honestly, his game on the Nintendo Land is the most fun. The one where you slink around and catch ghosts. That's my favorite of those. So guys, all right. I have no segue.
So, quick, before we jump into the deep end with
Okay.
the Trek stuff, I
Good.
just want to go back to the Cold Dead Eyes comment.
Cold Dead Eyes. Cold
with
Dead Popped Eyes.
the Funko Pops. So they keep making toys into movies. If they inevitably come around to making a Funko Pop movie, do we get something like Coraline out of it? Because that would just be fantastic.
That's a really good point. However, practically speaking, they don't have any original pops that are just
True.
Yeah,
But neither does Lego as far as the movies that have been made so far for the most part. I mean, the Lego movie used some original stuff, but, you know, Lego Batman.
I mean, I
still
can
Batman.
see kind of like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit style with Funko Pops from multiple different franchises.
They do little animated shorts for marketing stuff every once in a while, where they give them that like remember the early Lego video games where they never actually spoke. They just were like, yeah, they didn't actually say anything. But they apparently they're just Marvel. But they have them interacting and doing cute things. So I guess their marketing rights like extend that far. So I don't know. They're making buckets of money though. I'm sure they could buy whatever they want.
All right.
Yeah.
That was just a random thought I had when you said Cold Dead Eyes. I was like,
They
Coraline.
do have cold dead eyes. They do though. I mean,
they really do.
They're super cute, but yeah, no pupils or just pupils.
Yeah,
I know.
Big Bird up there is legitimately terrifying. If I woke up to that in the middle of the night,
You've got a
I
point.
would-
Yeah, it's a good thing you keep them down here and not in the bedroom.
Yeah, but they don't really focus, you know, with their big. I mean, they're just like, you know, it's. You can't tell that they're staring at you.
Big Bird's pretty much staring at us right now, I think.
So for those of you, I should probably explain what we're looking at, because if you're listening to the podcast or you're watching us on our Facebook show, we're just babbling on about random things in the room that I should explain. Keith has an extensive pop collection of Funko Pop figures, and it grows every day to the point where we're having to start to rotate some of them out. And one of his parts of his collection is of the Sesame Street variety, and it is Big Bird. And naturally, Big Bird is larger than the other Pops, and he is staring right, well, see, I don't think you can really tell where they're staring.
He's staring right at the two of us.
approximately through my soul.
Yeah.
Okay, well, he's apparently currently draining Travis's soul.
You're in the comfy chair. You can't quite understand the impact this is having
That's
on
true.
the two of
I
us.
am way too comfortable to understand this. It happens. But anyway, this giant pop figure is apparently attempting to, like, I don't know, demon possess my esteemed co-hosts, or I don't know, maybe hypnotize them like in Get Out. You know, maybe you guys are gonna slip into that.
I'm
know,
gonna sink, and then you're
Yeah.
gonna be talking to Big Bird in
yeah,
like 5 good minutes.
I know it's gonna happen. Well, I hope Big Bird has opinions on Star Trek.
I don't know.
Would he?
Do you? Dare I ask?
I have lots of opinions about Star
I
Trek.
thought you
Yeah.
might. Goody. So let me tell you something. I was a huge Next Generation fan when I was a kid, which is a weird thing to say. But my parents loved it. They watched it every week without fail. My mother sang the theme song very loudly, which is instrumental. And
Yeah.
but you know, she sang it anyway, and it was always a big event in our house. Now, when Star Trek Discovery came out and they were putting so much care and investing so much time with it, I thought, hooray. And then it came out on CBS All Access only, and there was no way to get it legally. So we just didn't get it. And I have not yet downloaded or seen a single episode. And because I still am not sure I will, I haven't read anything about it either. So I know you guys are going to get spoilery, true or false.
It's very true.
Very true.
Okay, but what I want to know is, should me and our friend of the show, Vanessa, who wants to know the same thing, be watching it?
Well, you're right. It is on CBS All Access. As anyone who's heard me speak about it or write about it, I am not a fan of the multitude of streaming services that are currently available, with more coming out every day. I did not pay the $5.99 to watch the show. I used the free trial that CBS All Access gives you. I waited for the season to be over, got the free trial, and watched them all.
Did that work?
Yes.
You got through all of them?
It is 15 episodes long. They're about 45 minutes apiece, so you can conceivably watch them in 2 to 3 days, which is what I did. So for at least the first season, the free trial is all you need.
Really?
So if you're a Star Trek fan, I'd recommend doing that because it is at least worth watching, whether it's going to be your favorite show of the Star Trek canon.
Spoiler, no, it won't.
No.
Travis, do you pay?
I do. I love Star Trek too much not to.
Okay.
So I wasn't going to wait. I guess a little bit of background. 87 is when Next Gen started. I was born in 86, so I effectively grew up right alongside Next Gen. Next Gen's kind of the first show I remember ending, and watching the finale, All Good Things, and like understanding that, okay, the show is gone. It's done. Now we got to move on to this next thing. And thankfully, Deep Space Nine was right there, just starting up in its first year. And so those two shows tend to be my favorite, especially DS9. As it relates to longer form storytelling in that universe. Discovery, I was desperate for Trek on TV again, and I don't regret that I've paid for it, but I definitely think that if you're a longer term Star Trek fan for the last 30 years like I've been, or if you've been there even longer through the full 50, Disco is probably going to throw some things at you that you're not going to appreciate very much.
Yeah. And in terms of my background, most of the other people here seem to have grown up with the Next Generation. I am slightly older, so for me, I'm not old enough to have seen it when it first ran, but the original series was on most of the time in our house. It was in syndication, and watched them enough times where I could name I couldn't tell you the episode title, but I could tell you the plot line of the current episode within 2 seconds of it showing up on the screen. When they had marathons of the series on TV, we'd videotape it, so we'd have all the entire series on VHS tape to watch. Wasn't diligent enough to cut the commercials out, so we'd always fast forward through on the VHS. So yes, and as much as I love the most of the movies for Star Trek, not all of them, because there are some bad ones.
There's some clunkers.
Yeah, I think Star Trek works best in the TV format.
Yeah.
The movies tend to veer towards the more action adventure, big bad that they have to fight for the movie. The TV show gets a little bit more cerebral.
Right.
Recently I've gone, so like I said, the original series is what I always think of the most. McCoy is my favorite character.
Yeah.
Of the any series. Recently I've gotten with Netflix. I've gotten back into rewatching the other series. Deep Space Nine is probably the best and most consistently written of all the series for me, as far as I'm concerned. It's my favorite, even though sentimentally the original series kind of wins out a little bit. Voyager and Enterprise I didn't really get into, mostly because by that point they had the same writing teams as Next Generation for so long they were kind of getting tired out.
Yeah.
So I do think that Star Trek needed a break from TV for a little while. When I heard Discovery was coming back, I was excited, especially with Brian Fuller being the showrunner at the time. And then I found out that it was going to be on CBS All Access, and my love of not spending money kind of trumped out a little bit on my love of Star Trek. But like I said, it's worth watching. It does not adhere to the Gene Roddenberry idea of what the future is, with the more optimistic, the more humanitarian bent, the original series and the Next Generation to a degree. The less I associate with the rest of the Star Trek, the more I can appreciate Discovery.
Right.
But anytime it tries to tie itself in more and more with the original series, that's where it starts to lose it for me.
And that's largely where I'm at as well, just because a lot of the ways they try to tie in tend to be either blatant fan service, which we'll certainly be getting to, or it's very ham-fisted and done with complete lack of regard for some other prior canonical stuff, or just kind of like, oh, well, screw it, they'll like this. And it's...
Yeah.
If I had one thing to say about Discovery, it's very much what I think would have happened if, say, Disney were handling Star Trek. Give them things familiar to them, and then hope that's enough to get by. And, throw a new coat of paint on it, which is a little bit annoying to me.
So not enough risks.
No, well, the problem with the risks they're taking is that you had Gene Roddenberry, whose ideology was that in the 23rd and 24th century, everybody's going to have food on their plate, every child will be able to read, and nobody will want, humanity will have gotten itself together and been able to move out into the stars. And Discovery kind of gets away from some of that and gets into this, well, we got to try to keep up with Game of Thrones. We're going to have people die. We're going to have this over here. We're going to have that. And just random grittiness for grit's sake. And It doesn't work in that universe.
And in terms of risk, the time setting the time period that it sets itself in, almost in a way, hamstrings them a bit in terms of what risks they can take. When we discuss the finale of the season, we'll probably get into a little bit more, but it's a problem that I knew was going to come at some point, because it's the same with other shows that are prequels and stuff like that, is that all the nifty toys that they introduce through the series that wasn't in the original, at some point they had to put those toys back in the box and forget about them in a way,
right.
Because otherwise it wouldn't match up with the original series. And that was what undid the finale of the season for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, to your point, Travis, Gene Roddenberry's vision, though, is like 40 years old, and he's been dead for close to 30 years. So don't you think that would have to emerge, like that would have to evolve? And
sure. And I think Deep Space Nine did a fantastic job of getting into, can that vision work, how would it work, and deconstructing some of the more complicated parts of that. He was very well known to be a rather atheistic guy, so there's no religion in any Trek before Deep Space Nine. And then in the first episode of Deep Space Nine, the main protagonist, Commander Sisko, becomes the emissary for an entire planet of people to their gods. And so that show has to build that up. And then it deals with a war between the Federation, and can the ideals of the Federation, of this peace and exploration, stand up to an enemy that doesn't care about that?
Yeah, but wasn't Deep Space Nine 25 years ago?
Sure. But that's what I'm saying, is we have a new show trying to get into some of those same weeds, but doing so in a very ham-fisted way. Instead of, by the time Deep Space Nine gets to its war, you've built up 3 seasons, you've had a number of great character arcs already building up towards that, and so by the time you actually get to the war and you start seeing the consequences of those things, and the actions people take, and whether or not somebody is actually willing to trade in those ideals and justify the end, or and have the means justify the ends, it all works. It all comes together in a way that makes sense. This show, you're 2 episodes in, and you've got a Starfleet officer saying, "Shoot him." Well, what are we going to do? Shoot him. Oh, you're not going to shoot him? Well, betrayal. Mutiny. I'm going to take over the ship, and now we're going to shoot him. So, it's difficult to try to justify that. And I understand things have to evolve over time, but the way they chose to go about evolving don't make a lot of narrative sense.
So when you guys started the show, how'd you feel about it? First few episodes. What were you like, charged up? Were you ready to go? Were you ready to call your friends?
I wasn't like gung-ho about it like that, like it's the best thing ever. There were some certainly, like I said, it's very much a modern show compared to what the the original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine was. So yes, the evolution didn't bother me too much. I was at least at the beginning willing to go along with it. Some of the character choices I don't know if I would have agreed with. Travis said in the first 2 episodes, the main character, Michael Burnham, played by Sonequa Martin Green, basically mutinies against her captain. And the mutiny is basically what instigates a war between the Klingons and Starfleet. We didn't really know enough about the character to know whether or not the mutiny and the decision to mutiny fits the character well enough. But I was at least willing to go along with the ride for that point. Whenever it tried to tie in, like, not so much like the tone, but in terms of trying to tie in events with the original series and so forth, that's where it started losing me a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Travis, what'd you think?
So the first couple episodes, you've got, if I remember right, it's the Vulcan Hello and Battle of the Binary Stars. So we established that, okay, well, here's this human who's been raised by Vulcans, famously by Spock's father, and she's acting very arrogantly and very off-puttingly for a human because she acts very Vulcan. And within the first 10 minutes, I think she gives some calculation off the top of her head that, for a fact, had it been Spock, it would have been correct and it would have been dead on. But because she's human and she's not that intelligent, she completely screws it up. And then kind of the plan of the whole situation gets a little out of hand. And I think it was supposed to kind of establish that maybe, okay, well, she's human, she's flawed, she has these problems, but she was raised Vulcan, so she carries herself that way. But then they don't do anything with her being any kind of having any real humanity in those first couple episodes. She just tries to act in this very pragmatic Vulcan logic way, and she's unlikable as all hell, and she's just awful. I hated her. Those first 2 episodes, I hated the main protagonist, and that's a huge problem.
Yeah, the first 2 episodes and the final episode were probably the roughest in terms of characterization and storyline for me. Yeah. Once you get past that opening 2-parter and it actually gets onto, because you don't even see Discovery, the ship, and the main crew that you're going to be interacting with for the entire season until episode 3. Once she becomes a member of that crew, the writing becomes a little bit more consistent, and the character work comes a little bit better. But it's a little bit rough as it starts off.
Yeah. And well, it should be noted, too, that originally the series was going to be 13 episodes, and they tacked on 2. And it's pretty clear that the reason they tacked on 2 is so that first part could be done. They could do this big battle and get people hooked with a big war scene and blow half the effects budget for the season in 2 episodes.
Yeah.
So now, it's obvious that CBS put a lot of money behind this. Do you think that's evident?
Yes.
Unquestionably.
Yeah.
The money's on the screen.
It's beautiful to watch. The effects work, the compositing, all that. It's definitely, it uses its money well in terms of the special effects. Yeah. The props, the costuming, all that works very well.
Do you think that if there was any sort of increased circulation of Discovery, it would do better? Do you think it could find an audience? With a wider,
I think it was. I think I understand why they put it on CBS All Access. I think it was. I think it probably was a mistake. I think you would definitely get more reach if it was on either network CBS or even Netflix. I mean, I know over in Europe you can actually see it on Netflix. You don't need a separate subscription.
Everywhere outside of the U.S. gets it on Netflix,
which is incredibly annoying.
Super annoying. Yeah, well, CBS does that anyway. I mean, there's the shows that they do allow on Netflix, you can't download. Yeah. For example, you can do that with like any other show. You can't do it with CBS.
But I mean, they're trying really, really hard to make this like the Game of Thrones of Star Trek. I think it would definitely be a hit if they could put it on network television. Whether or not they would have the budget for it if it was network television, I don't know. I don't even know what the ratings were for the streaming of it on CBS, honestly.
I mean, it was good enough to get a season 2, so we know that's coming 2019 sometime. They haven't really said. production has started as far as writing staff, those kinds of things. And it should be noted too that this show, no Star Trek show has ever started out remotely perfect. They've all had pretty consistently rough first seasons,
with the exception of the original series.
The original series being kind of the first foray into it, it's a little different. But from TNG forward, typically the first season tends to be a little rough.
Yeah, usually.
Well, that's true with a lot of shows.
It's usually season 3 for the newer series before you really start getting into the good or the better episodes and so forth.
Yeah, you got to grow the beard. Yeah.
Now, Alex is joining us on our Facebook page, and he says that he thinks Trek fans would say Discovery had the best first season of any Trek show.
I would agree, except for the original series. When people think of what are the good episodes of the original series, the classic Trek, I'd say 9 out of 10 of the episodes that somebody's going to pick are from the first season.
Well, now, classic Trek has a different story, though, with the way it was developed and the way it was written and came about, and then episodes that were split and rearranged and all that. So that's almost like a whole separate thing. I mean, the Star Trek original series I studied in my TV classes in college. So
I mean, well, none of the series except for Deep Space Nine and Discovery really have are done in a serialized format. You could watch almost any episode in any order and understand what the plot is because it's all contained within an episode.
Sure.
Deep Space Nine is not like that, especially season 3 on. You definitely had to invest in order to get the most out of it, and I do think that Discovery is going to end up being the same way because that's basically how TV is told these days.
Right.
Right. So, I would say it might have the best, but even then, it's a very up and down affair. Yeah. The first half of the season, you're getting mired in this war that kind of happens for no real reason, and then the second half, they come back and go, "Oh, we're going to the mirror. We're going to the mirror universe, and we're going to stay here for 4 out of our next 6 episodes, and then just kind of wrap it all up."
Now that is where the show lost Alex, our Facebook fan. He says he was fine with it, and then he lost it in the Mirror Universe.
Yeah, the Mirror Universe, if nothing else, took a little bit too long for me. Especially, ostensibly, the season is supposed to be about the Federation Klingon War, and once you get to the midpoint of the season, they really abandon that until you get to the last episode, and then they try and wrap it all up really, really quickly, and it doesn't work.
Now, is this like a Flashpoint thing?
No.
Okay,
no.
Different thing. Okay,
No.
don't try to explain to me then.
Yeah,
I'll just have to watch it.
We're not getting into any kind of time travel craziness.
Yeah. I mean, the Mirror Universe is an alternate dimension, but it's not to the point where anything that they do in the Mirror Universe changes the way the history unfolded in the actual.
If this was Mirror Universe popped, I would have a goatee and would have killed Keith to take over.
Oh, so like Spock with a beard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Got it. I'm with you.
Mirror.
Yeah, that's how you make people evil. You just give them, a beard.
Strategic facial hair.
Yep. Yes.
So is that where it lost you, Travis?
No, it never lost me. I stayed with it despite some of my better judgment in spots, but again, I want Trek to be good, and I'm willing to give it a chance to be good. But my best friend, he's as long-term a Trek fan as I am. Same thing. Born the same year, the whole 9. And he hasn't finished it yet. And he paid for it. Is still paying. He's got 3 episodes to go, and he straight up told me the other day, he's like, "I'm not going to finish it. I don't care. It's not fun anymore. It's not Star Trek." And meanwhile, he's sitting there enjoying the new Stargate web series and loving life. Because that's his other big sci-fi love is Stargate. And I'm sitting there going, well, this sucks.
Do you have any reason that he should finish it?
I've given him reasons, and we'll get to that when we get to the finale. Because I think the finale does do a good job of it. If it does one thing well, it does set up that next season we're kind of starting with a clean slate. And the manner of getting there is awful. It's stupid, incredibly convenient, but at least we're there, and now we can start clean. And I think part of the problem that you had with this season was that Brian Fuller was kicked off, fired, whatever. Something happened behind the scenes, and Brian Fuller was not retained. And so the first half of the season is very much some of the story he was trying to tell with this war and some of that. And then you can tell that at mid-season, with character inconsistencies and everything that happens, that they I think it's been pretty common knowledge that they rewrote something like 6 or 8 episodes right in the heart of the season. All the stuff that leads right up to the Mirror Universe. And that's where the writing staff takes over and clearly just decides, screw it, we're going that way now. And once they do that, the show becomes much more focused. And even if you thought they were in the Mirror Universe a little too long, at least there's a focused narrative and there's a drive through every episode. Something's always happening. Whereas in those first few episodes, there's a lot of muddling around and just kind of not doing much.
It's a noticeable amount of setup for various plot points and plot threads that they don't really end up delivering on.
Yeah, they never pay off half of them.
I mean, do we want to go deep spoilers now?
Go for it. You were warned, people.
Okay.
Yes.
Like one of the big twists is that one of the characters on the Discovery, Ash Tyler, it's almost like a Manchurian Candidate kind of thing, where one of the Klingons has been modified surgically and mentally, so he's no longer a Klingon, but he's actually adopted this persona of Ash Tyler.
So he was kidnapped and surgically altered.
Well,
no, he volunteered.
It's kind of a
nobody got the next gen.
They don't really explain it very well. Like if there originally was an Ash Tyler, or how much of the original Ash Tyler is still embodied in this character. It's almost like they took the Klingon body and surgically changed it to look like this Ash Tyler character, but then it grafted the Ash Tyler personality on top of the Klingon personality so that it wouldn't be detectable by Star Trek, by the Federation's scanners. They don't do a very good job of explaining it. It's kind of convoluted.
It's very hand-wavy science.
Yeah.
So it's a Klingon, but he doesn't look like a Klingon.
Right.
Does he think?
Yeah.
And
he looks like a Middle Eastern man.
Does he know that he's a Klingon?
Not originally. Eventually, he remembers.
And what was the point of doing this?
They don't really go into it. Whatever plan, like I said, it was a lot of setup for that, and it was a nice reveal, the idea that this guy is actually a sleeper Klingon agent.
Yeah.
But then they don't really do anything with it.
But if he doesn't know he's a...
Yeah.
No,
well,
I-
there's
he's supposed to be able to be activated
with a phrase.
Yeah, and
how
then
very James Bond.
But it doesn't really work in the show because they don't really do anything with it, and so
and it's all very ham-fisted.
yeah.
I'm going to keep using that word
No,
because
you-
there's
well-
so much.
Yeah, so they'll do that, and the stuff in the Mirror Universe was kind of cool, and it's revealed that Captain Lorca, the main captain of the ship Discovery, originally came. This is the actual Mirror Universe version of him. So you've been watching a Mirror Universe character the entire season.
Yeah.
And so he actually takes the ship back to the Mirror Universe and tries to take over. So that part is okay. But it's a very self-contained part. Like once they're done with the Mirror Universe, that plot line's gone. And they kill him off, unfortunately, because he was one of my favorite characters. A lot of potential, but
Yeah, and really a lot of the Mirror Universe stuff boils down to, okay, well, we have to justify why this Starfleet officer is acting so out of character with the ideals of Starfleet. And rather than make it so that he's just a complicated guy and has motivations because he's seen war or whatever, rather than do any of that, it's, oh, well, he's evil because he's from the evil universe. Okay, I guess.
That's unfortunate because
And-
the foundations of evil can be so artful.
Right, and they could have done so much more with the Mirror Universe type stuff, and I think in a large way it kind of just worked as a way to resurrect Michelle Yeoh because she's dead after the second episode, and there's, I don't know.
then they bring the Mirror Universe version of her back to the main universe.
Right, and so now we can have her pop up whenever, and I love Michelle Yeoh. She does fantastic work, and she's clearly having a lot of fun.
Yeah. The Mirror Universe version of her is much more fun and entertaining to watch than
the more philosophical Starfleet officer version at the beginning. But if I can get Keith to bring up one of the pictures here, can we get the captains? I would appreciate that. But I kind of think one of the biggest issues that this show's got. So we've got the 5 captains from the previous series up there. This show doesn't have a captain. You have a captain who happens to be there and then dies. You have another captain who is evil and dies. And there's no real central rallying point in the show other than Michael Burnham, who is this disgraced traitor who got her captain killed at the beginning, and then is very unlikable. I mean, just you don't have a decent human moment with her until probably 6-7 episodes in, whenever they have the party and the time loop episode.
Yes.
Which is like the most Star Trek episode in the whole run, the time loop thing. And it's fantastic, and you finally actually see her have to emote. Mm-hmm. And I've seen Sonequa Martin Green before on The Walking Dead, and I didn't particularly care for her character there. I think, for whatever reason, she keeps getting underwritten in some of these roles she's had so far in her genre work, and so she's not had to be called on to be a human yet and actually help draw us in. And that's a huge problem, because every one of those captains up there, regardless of the quality of the shows overall, they're all compelling people, and they're all people that you want to rally behind for whatever different reasons.
Yeah, I mean, she, especially near the beginning, she is since she was raised by Vulcans, she plays it, tries to play it more logical, no emotion. So she is a very distant character at the beginning. Once she does open up, it's more easy to root for her character. Yeah. One of the strengths of the series for me was the characterization of not the main characters per se, but a lot of the side characters.
Right.
Tilly was good. I liked her.
She's fantastic. Yeah. She's the most human though on the show.
Yeah. And then the Kelpian Saru was pretty good. Mm-hmm. And I did like I liked Stamets a lot.
Yeah.
Too. Especially as I liked the relationship he had with Dr. Culper, I believe is the name.
Yeah, Dr. Culper.
And that was it was a nice touch to see a gay couple on the show. Played in a way that wasn't really drawing attention to the fact they were a gay couple. They were just a couple. Yeah. No one mentions anything about it being odd or different.
Yeah. Yep. Great.
But like just the scene of the two of them brushing their teeth together was fantastic.
Yeah, it's that couple stuff that you're standing there brushing your teeth, just talking about your day.
And unfortunately, for every positive I have about the show, I can find a negative to it. Unfortunately, they succumb to the trope of if there's a lesbian or gay couple on the show, inevitably one of the couple has to die.
Yeah.
So I was really disappointed by the fact that they killed off one of those characters, because it doesn't really add anything to the show at all. And then you've lost half of that dynamic that's just so intriguing to me.
Well, and the other thing is when we see Stamets early on in the series, he's very prickly in a different way from Bones, but he's equally as irascible, just kind of irritable guy who, when people come talk to him, he's just get away from me. But he's a little snarkier and snappier, I think, than Bones ever was. But you like him because he's the one guy on the ship who's willing to tell evil Lorca, where he can stick it, because he's the one driving the science on the ship and making the magical mycelial spore drive thing work. And Culber humanizes him. And so when you see those smaller moments between him and his, well, I guess they're not married, so his boyfriend, but when you see that relational dynamic between them, you get a lot of great human drama too. And when he modifies himself so that he can pilot the ship effectively and do all that, there's legitimate concern between him and this other character now, and Dr. Culber, who's not only his physician but also his lover, and who's like, what are you doing to yourself? And quit lying to me about what this is doing to you and your mind and everything else. And
I see it. Well, so going back to the human thing, the human element of this character who, like I said, I haven't seen it. So she was raised by Vulcans and is therefore...
she was raised by Spock's father, Sarek.
Right. Okay. So the thing about Star Trek and the seasons that have always resonated with me are that it takes characters that have no business with human emotion and makes them still lovable. Right. Like, I love Data. He was one of my favorites. He wasn't even an organic being.
Right.
And Spock, Vulcan, nothing there. So, I mean, well, there's something there, but
sure, he was half human.
But this character, I think that's so funny that you're finding this character not lovable. Because like I don't think that's how it was. I think there was so much more nuance in the older shows because it wasn't just off or on.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that how that feels for this?
Yeah, I mean, eventually she does open up, and that's where she becomes a little bit more interesting.
A little bit, yeah. The way we get there is a little...
Yeah, it takes a little bit too long to get there in a show that's only 15 episodes. It's halfway through the show before you actually get some emotion from her, I guess. Yeah. Vulcans are very tricky. I don't think anyone has ever really played a Vulcan as well as Leonard Nimoy. Where, like, yes, you could tell he was the logical, no emotion kind of guy on the surface, but there's just something about the way that he always portrayed Spock. 'Cause you could tell that there was more to that character than just what you could see on the surface.
Right.
You didn't get that with Michael Burnham at first.
Okay.
No. Yeah. Not even a little. And they kind of try to shoehorn in some very Trek elements. I think it's the third or fourth episode. She starts quoting Through the Looking Glass or something because, that's a book that Spock's human mom read to me when I was a kid. And Star Trek has a proud tradition of literary allusions and using those things. I mean, The Wrath of Khan is basically Moby Dick in space, which is great. But they try to kind of shoehorn that in there and then... Oh, well, clearly she loved this woman who raised her and did all this, and it just doesn't work. It falls very flat because now you have this person crawling through a Jeffries tube quoting Alice in Wonderland, and you're like, well, why is she doing this? This is so weird. It's...
Like those weird, like, hey, fellow kids, like Easter eggs.
Right, yeah. It's supposed to be this big character moment where you're like, oh, okay, I get it. This is where she mines some of her humanity from, and... It just doesn't work because she's just blah, 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 blah. No emotion, no feeling, nothing to the dialogue.
Some of the callbacks to the original series in Star Trek canon worked for me. Some didn't. Some of the small Easter eggs, like the fact that there's a Tribble on Lorca's desk was cool. The fact that there's a Gorn skeleton in his menagerie was awesome.
And that they made sure to call it out as like a menagerie. And
the one that of all the callbacks, Sarek it didn't bother me too much, but there's a whole episode devoted to Sarek as a character and his backstory with Michael Burnham that I think detracted from the main plot of the story. And again, when you only have 15 episodes, you don't really, if you're trying to tell that kind of a streamlined plot, a serialized plot the way they are, it does take away from that a little bit and adds a rush quality to the main story. Yeah. The one character that worked best for me in terms of calling back to the original series was Harry Mudd.
Yeah, Rainn Wilson did a heck of a job.
Yeah, Rainn Wilson did. Rainn Wilson is just good. In most of what he does. But he played the character in such a way that you saw the familiarity that you had with the original Harry Mudd, where he was this big, broad, comic kind of figure, though a little bit, mischievous and kind of, dangerous beneath that. So you got that feeling to it, but then also it still brought the character into a modern show with modern sensibilities. So you could feel both aspects of the character to it, and that's what I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I know a lot of the larger Trek audience was kind of split on Mudd. I really enjoyed him when he showed up, and again, his character is central to the best episode of the season, which is that time loop. Yeah. And as that all kind of unfolds and you realize what he's been doing to them, it all works. He's more dangerous than the Harry Mudd from Mudd's Women or
I Mudd.
Yeah. And that's okay because again, like you said, the way Wilson's playing him, there's enough there that calls back to kind of the sillier 60s aesthetic, but doesn't go full bore into that. It keeps it a little more modern and more palatable, I think.
Let's catch up with some Facebook comments. Alex, big fan of the show, says he was fine with breaking the captain formula. If anything, it should have gone further from that and been a true ensemble about multiple ships and locations.
Now, that I would have liked, and we do actually have another picture I want to use. The crew picture. Make him feel the noise.
Which you could watch if you were on facebook.com/popshow.
Yeah, if you're watching us right now, you can take a look at the picture, and you've got Saru there on the bottom right, Michael Burnham there center at the bottom, and then just up to the left of her, you've got Tilly and Stamets. Now, there's 9 people in this picture. I just named 4 of them. I can't name the other 5. And that's a huge problem in a Star Trek show. That is your main bridge crew right there. And the cyborg-looking gal on the left,
I don't even think she has a speaking line.
no. And she
She's
literally...
a token robot.
She exists...
We don't know.
We
what she
don't
is.
even know she's a robot. She's just this alien person. And she literally exists. I will demonstrate exactly what she does on the show right now if you're watching. Cut to Captain over here at the center, says, blah, 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 engage something or other. And then she'll just go,
Sit up, look around.
That's it. They'll hard cut over to her. Up,
So
left,
she's
back,
a
down.
prop
She is
set dressing,
a prairie dog on the bridge.
living set dressing.
Someone has alerted me.
Wow.
That's it. And I can't tell you any of the other characters' names, and they say them every once in a while, but none of them get any opportunity to shine. They never get developed. They don't usually get a line in an episode. Nothing.
Maybe the second season, right?
That's the hope.
Hopefully. I mean, a couple of the characters are gone. Like Captain Lorca's not on the show anymore.
Yeah.
And I guess Ash Tyler's not coming back, at least for a while.
Yeah, I would imagine he'll come back
Yeah.
as we hopefully get into some of the Klingon intrigue that should be coming out of this, but that's a whole other thing I want to talk about.
Yeah. Did you like the Klingon makeup in this show?
Keith, you want to give us that picture too? Where?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Cat. Ghost cat.
So I will say that I do not like the new design for the Klingons. Now, obviously between the original series and the Next Generation, or even the movies, there was a drastic overhaul to how the Klingons looked. And I was okay with that. One, because the original series, it was a
$12 budget.
It was a $12. Well, it was a $12 budget. A little bit racist, kind of.
Yeah.
And they just didn't look alien enough. So I understand with the budget, and then going into the movies, they could make them look more alien-like. I was okay with that. And then, so that was the look of the Klingons that I am most familiar with. Now, this series drastically changes the Klingons even more so than the gap between the original series and the movies and the Next Generation. To me, to the point, for no reason that I could tell, other than the fact that they just wanted them to look different.
Right.
And that's my biggest problem with the way that they've done the Klingons in this season, this series.
So I sent Keith this picture for this exact conversation. So there on the left, you've got the original series. Then, of course, Lieutenant Commander Worf, and now I believe that's Takuvma.
I think so, yeah.
There on the right, who we are introduced to in the first episode of Discovery. Yeah. Now, Worf is pretty much the quintessential, this is how a Klingon looks, from 1979 forward. And last night when I was doing research, getting ready for this, I found a thing where they had asked one of the producers of the show, well, why did you change the Klingons so drastically? And he basically said, well, in the 50 years that Star Trek's existed, they've never had a consistent look. Now, I'm sorry, 1979 to 2016...
pretty consistent.
37 out of your 50 years, 74% of the time they've looked a certain way. So now we're just going to arbitrarily change them to change them.
That's a good point.
Which is
it's
all they've done.
It's jarring to the fan base, too.
It is.
Yeah.
And for longtime fans like me and my buddy Bill and stuff, the second we saw those, we were just like, what is that?
And in terms of practicality, it's such a thick prosthetic to
they
look
can't
too.
talk.
They can't talk. There's no emotion from their face whatsoever.
That's what they sound like.
Now I will say at first the prosthetics do have something to do with the way they pronounce it. But when the character Ash Tyler speaks as a Klingon, he does a pretty good job of making it sound the exact same way. I was kind of impressed by that. So it was not quite as impacting on the way they talk, but it definitely impacts the way they emote through the prosthetics.
Right, and that's part of the problem. I understand some people have a problem with the so-called pie crust up on the forehead, but the Klingons have routinely been these long-haired warrior people with big forehead ridges, and they're supposed to have, redundant organs and all this craziness that makes them just big, dangerous people. so that when you fight them, you know, they're a legitimate threat, and they have twice, 3 times the strength of the average human and all this stuff. And these Klingons don't seem, I mean, they're portrayed as being stronger, but now they don't have fingers. They have fingers, but now they have like claws kind of at the end of them. And the problem I have is that Worf was kind of the gateway to building out the larger culture. And so we get all these wonderful episodes of TNG and then later DS9 where we build out and flesh out the Klingon culture to the point where I don't think it's a stretch to say that aside from, you know, humans, Klingons are the most fleshed out alien culture in science fiction.
Well, you can learn there. Well, I would say there might be some exceptions in the Tolkien world, but
well, yeah, but even there, you know, how much do we really know about most of those cultures outside of, you know, 30-page asides in the middle of the Lord of the Rings?
Well, there's
Sure, but Klingon. You know, I mean, there's the Klingons have a language, they have a culture, they have established rituals, they have all of these things that fill out, and we know all this stuff about the inner workings of the Empire because of the shows and things they've shown. And these Klingons here kind of boiled down to, well, we had the idea to make them Trump supporters, and then we just went ahead and made them into, you know, stereotypically savage others.
Well, now Alex says
that's
that
a problem.
He says that the look of the Klingons is a minor nitpick, but I could see where you feel about that whole culture and your understanding of that shifting. I mean, it seems like the show is going for callbacks, like sort of easy grabs, but then they deny a very fundamental part of fans' understanding of the universe.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like, the look, it's in and of itself is not really it doesn't break the show for me. It does, I mean, it is a personal opinion, a preference of mine that I don't see why the need was there to change it. Especially because they keep so much of what makes the Klingons Klingons. They talk about Stovacor. They have the bat'leths, the weapons, all still kind of
even there, though, they redesigned all
Yeah.
of the weapons. They redesigned everything because, oh, well, if they look different, we're going to make everything different. And it's why.
But I mean, if they had set it in a different time period, it could have worked just as well as if the Klingons were a different alien species.
Right. And I don't know. I just have significant issues because, admittedly, for me, the Klingons and like Worf is my favorite character on Next Gen. Like I love him, and when he shows up again in DS9. You get so much more with him and the Klingon Empire in the middle of a war, and you finally get to see all that. And there's just such a great character build out there that I don't like throwing all of that away for this other thing that just because, well, the production designer wanted to do something other.
What about the other major races that you've encountered?
They don't really show too many other races in this.
What the?
It is so we
Come on, we have a whole universe.
We do see the Vulcans.
Vulcans,
and, you know, obviously pointy ears, not the hardest prosthetic to do, so they do that.
And the Andorians, as well.
And they get a little forehead ridge thing now. But other than that, you get the antennas and they move, and that's fun. I want to see Jeffrey Combs again.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Other than that, the only major species they have is Saru's character is a Kelpian.
Yeah.
So that was a completely new species.
Yeah,
and it was
fantastic.
I think I can't remember what his name
Doug
was.
Jones.
Doug Jones, who's been in a lot of other movies with prosthetics on, such as I think he was in Hellboy.
Well, yeah, he was Hellboy, Shape of Water. Yeah. He's Fishman.
So we've got, okay, but let me understand. We have a whole universe of all these known races, and many have been well established in the Star Wars, universe that we know.
Star Trek.
Oh, I'm sorry, Star Trek. Of course, I'd be the first one to do that.
Sacrilege.
I know. You just throw me out now. Oh, wait, I'm in the big chair. I can't do that. So they have humans, and they have like a couple Vulcans, and they have these Klingons that are totally different. Right. And then they have this random silent prairie dog
Cyborg,
character.
Maybe, we don't know.
And then that's it.
Yeah, it's...
But it's like a federation.
Yeah.
The whole point is that...
Yes. And, well, that's the thing, is they have the founding species of the federations and not much else outside of that. You see the Orions briefly at the end, the green... You do. The green people that Kirk likes to get down
I
with.
mean, and also the the middle arc of the episodes takes place in the Mirror Universe, where it's not the Federation, it's the Terran Empire, where all other species are subservient to Terrans, so they're not really part of the crew, so to speak.
They eat a Kelpian.
Yeah, they actually eat Kelpians.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
And that I will say that moment for Sonequa Martin Green,
She played that very well.
yeah. She nailed that, but
Yeah. I'm Googling things that eat kelp so I can make a pun joke. Were they crabbian
No.
or jellyfishian?
No.
Apparently those things eat kelp. I had to Google. Okay. Are you ready to talk about the finale?
Sure.
yeah. Why don't we go ahead and toss up either of the remaining pictures there? Because it's the big one.
The big one. Dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun.
Yes.
So we come to the final moments of the series or of this season, and here comes the Enterprise.
Yes.
How did that make you feel?
I think it's too soon. I don't really want the Enterprise on this show.
Right. And so I'm going to go back to the other Star franchise, Star Wars. Rogue One. I despised all of the fan service in that movie, especially the ending with Vader hacking his way through all the stuff and everything. Like, it just felt completely tacked on, unnecessary, did not need to be there. And this felt the same way for me, where like, oh, well, here, Star Trek fans, here's your Enterprise, here's that thing you know, now just like it. And I hate it.
The biggest problem
drives
for
me nuts.
the biggest problem for me, the fact that they introduced the Enterprise at the end of this season, is that this show is supposed to be about the crew of the Starship Discovery.
Yeah.
If the show needs to succeed on the strength of its characters and its own ship, if you're bringing in the Enterprise at the end of season 1, it's almost like saying we don't have enough to hook you on this crew in this series on its own. We need to prop it up by bringing in this, the Enterprise already, because that's what everyone cares about. Instead of trying to take the easy route by introducing something that we know the fans love, and instead of trying to make the characters and stories of this show compelling enough for the fans to love this show as much.
That's fair. Yeah. Well, okay, continue, finale. Sorry, I have another viewer comment.
Yeah. The other big problem I had with the finale is they just completely, in the space of 45 minutes, end the whole Klingon Federation war. Yeah. And it doesn't. It just feels a little cheap to end it that quickly,
Right.
And on such a minor key note that it's almost like a Deus Machina that they just pull out of nowhere to make the war end.
Yeah, so you basically have, the character from the Mirror Universe who has decimated the Klingons be like, oh, here's a solution. All you have to do is trade your entire value set, and I'll give you the solution. Just nuke their home planet into oblivion. We'll blow it up. Oh, okay, go ahead. We're losing the war, so go ahead.
Yes.
And then here we are, and do they do it? No, but we get a giant speech, a pile of pontificating about what Starfleet is and should be, that the show has not earned at all, because at every turn that it had an opportunity to show those ideals in action, it turned away from them and went the other way. And with another 7 episodes, if they would have done like a full 22, I think they could have made a similar solution work with a legitimately good build-up to it. Yeah. But where you come back from the Mirror Universe, you got 2 episodes left. It's, okay, well, go throw a bomb in a volcano in the heart of their planet, and then, this person that you don't particularly like or care about, she's going to give a big speech and then save Starfleet from itself and hand the detonator over to a Klingon so she can take over. Cool.
It sounds like it's kind of rushed.
It's very rushed. The fact that they took so long in the Mirror Universe left them very little time to play with the actual what was supposed to be the main crux of the season. I don't think they really needed to end the Klingon War so soon.
They could have cooled it out. They could have turned it into more of a Cold War kind of thing.
Yeah,
but it was just, well, the war's over.
It's like they didn't have faith that they were going to get renewed for another season and didn't want to leave a plot thread dangling, so they decided to wrap it up as quickly as possible, which left it very unfulfilling for me.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they say that they were going to do a second season pretty early on?
Yeah, but the episodes had already been written and were filmed and pretty much in the can by that point.
Well,
because this show had such a long
you're right. There was
production
a lot
cycle because of the issues they had.
Now, Alex says on Facebook that it was obvious that the season was going to center around the Klingons. Next season, it'll be a different race, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I agree.
Sure.
But I feel like based on the setting, the premise of the show, and the fact that there's so many that already exist, they could have easily brought more, I'm going to say diversity for lack of a better word. I don't mean that traditionally here, but you know what I mean? Like the different, introduce different races. I mean, I think that the alien life in Star Trek is one of the things that makes it absolutely cool, and to know how they work together. And that is part of world building. It's a really essential part of world building. I
understand the idea of wanting the more diversity in terms of the alien races, but I do see I agree with Alex as well. Even in the other series, you usually get a couple of main races. You get the humans, you get the Vulcans, Bajorans, Klingons, Romulans. Most of the other species that you see are usually like a guest star for one particular episode. When in this series in Star Trek Discovery, you've only got 15 episodes. If you want to tell like a serialized arcing story, I don't know. They've already deleted the show as plot line is enough as it is. Anything else alien wise that they would have introduced would have been almost like a little cameo throwaway in the background. It really wouldn't have been couldn't have been a focus or anything like that. So maybe like you said, the Klingons were this season. Next season it could be something else.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like they could at least have artfully introduced and given a little background to some other races without making them integral to the plot, because I mean, at this point, if you've got a Federation, you're going to have a bunch of different species there.
Right.
Yeah, and that was true for Next Gen. There were all these different races on the Enterprise, and you knew that.
Not really.
You'd see them in the background.
They were all mostly background or the guest star of the week, honestly. The Federation's never been the most diverse in terms of its recruitment.
Well, no, maybe you're right.
Primarily human Vulcan, but I think a lot of that too is always generally boiled down to budgetary restrictions as well. I mean, it's why so many people have always given Star Trek a little bit of gentle ribbing, because every alien race is just a person with some sort of forehead appliance or ear things done to them. But I think as far as building out the Federation goes, I think they can do more with some of that. It would have been nice just to have gotten to know the bridge crew, because they're in the bridge crew. You have, this cyborg half person. I don't know. They never make it clear. They don't give her race a name. They don't. I'm sure if I go get on Memory Alpha, the Trek wiki, and start looking her up, I can find some fan who has dug out every detail about that character's life up to this point. But none of it's in the show. I mean, there's nothing there. She's a non-entity other than to play prairie dog to the camera.
Well, there is always hope that the next season, now that they've gotten rid of or have established Michael Burnham as the main character, if more consistent writing,
get away from that.
With more consistent writing, hopefully they introduce more aspects for the rest of the crew.
Yeah, because I think the show worked best when it gave other characters an opportunity to shine. Saru, Tilly, they both got to see some really good little growth. You actually got some character growth there.
I was definitely more interested and invested in the side characters. Personally, and I do hope to see more of them in the next season.
Now, one thing with the finale, they did talk, when they run into the Enterprise, they're on their way to Vulcan to pick up their new captain. Do we want to see a new captain? Do we want to see Saru get promoted? What do we want to see?
I want to see Saru be the captain. I think he's earned it.
Yeah. I when they said, like, oh, you're going to pick up a new captain, I'm like, what does this guy got to do to get promoted? Like, he's been passed over 3 times in this show. Yeah. Promote that man.
Yeah.
or horse slash fish guy.
One of my favorite parts is
has hooves.
the admiral is in charge of the Discovery during when they go to the starbase.
Yeah.
And as soon as they find out it's been overrun by Klingons, she just basically freezes.
Yeah.
And Saru just takes over.
Yeah.
He's like, out of the way. This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
That was great.
Go to warp, get us out of here, boom. Save the day kind of thing. And it is interesting because she plays into some of the Trek trope too, with the admiral that invariably loses the ideals of Starfleet.
Yeah.
The second you become an admiral, you forget what Starfleet is.
Almost,
or why
it's
it
almost to the
matters.
point where any officer that's not a member of this crew is inherently flawed and wrong in some way, and this crew is going to show you how things are actually supposed to be done.
Right. Except for Ronnie Cox that one time on TNG, just showing up being like, "Do what I tell you, Riker. I'm right. The hell with you." But
So, should we watch it?
I do think it. As much as I've been negative or showing things that I disliked, I do think it's a worthwhile show. Of the more modern series, none of the shows have gotten it 100% correct out of the gate. There's a lot of potential here with the side characters. Like I said, Stamets, Tilly, Saru, definitely. And the other characters I hope to see more of. So more seasons, more plot lines. I do hope that they do take the chance. I mean, the show doesn't need to be so serialized that they're telling just one story.
Yeah.
And especially if they're going to tell it in such a way where they're going to undercut the ending of it. Make it a little bit more episodic, give it a couple more episodes, show off the rest of the bridge crew, develop them further. The special effects are great. Music kind of hit or miss. They really do. The best part of it is when they have the original series Trek theme play into it. But they try and combine it with a Game of Thrones opening credits type song, which it's not bad. It's catchy, but it's not really needed, I don't think.
it's not iconic.
Yeah.
It's not the Alexander Courage theme from Next Gen, where you hear that and you go, Star Trek.
Yeah,
But-
everyone runs to the living room.
But at the same time, it's not as bad as the theme song for Enterprise.
Oh, come on now.
No. Just,
I
just
can't
no.
defend it
No.
with a straight
So
face.
tell me something I love about it.
What you would love about it? Like I said, I think the characterizations for the most part are strong. Michael Burnham starts off a little bit weak, but develops as she goes through it. So if you're a big fan of characters or character work, I think you're going to find something to like about the show.
I do love character work. That almost means more to me than I get emotionally invested in beings less than storylines. Storylines come and go.
Yeah.
Characters stick with you.
I think that you will find enjoyment by watching the characters, the side characters that do get developed, such as Stamets and Tilly.
You will love Tilly.
Tilly will be
will
probably be your favorite.
Okay.
Tilly is the silent MVP of the show.
Yes.
No. Yeah, I would say I agree with some of the character work. Maybe not all of it. The production design is A+ stuff.
Yes.
Even if you're not looking necessarily at, oh wow, that's an incredible looking, shot of the ship going by or whatever. There's just little nods and things all over the place. When they end up on Kronos, you see the little earbug from Wrath of Khan in a frying pan getting cooked up, and there's all sorts of weird stuff. If you're just keeping a little bit of an eagle eye out, there's all sorts of fun to be had there. And it's obvious that somebody on the writing staff gives a damn about continuity and does care about, hey, there's all these really cool things in Trek that we can play with. Let's play with them. Now it's just, how do we further develop this show? Because it's clear there was a bit of a schism there. They've hit the reset button. We're back to square one. So let's just carry forward smartly.
Yeah, if they like the beginning of the show is a little rocky. Now that they've gotten the production team in place, hopefully to keep the writers, I think I'm optimistic enough that the show got better as it went along.
Yeah.
Up until the very end, the last episode was a little bit disappointing. But if they go forward now with a clearer vision, I'm optimistic in seeing where it goes next.
Yeah.
Once they get past the introduction of the Enterprise, I hope it gets taken care of in like the first 2 episodes, and then they just move on.
Yeah.
It shouldn't focus on the Enterprise at all.
I feel like the Enterprise is probably going to be a 2-parter, just, again, kind of that reset. And and then just move forward and figure out who your characters are and why they do the things they do and how we can make them better. I hope the one thing I do hope about Discovery is that this is the last Star Trek show that goes back to the past. Yes. After this, go post TNG and never stop moving forward. Yeah. Quit going back.
Full stream.
Looks like one of the people posted asking, I guess that's a question asking if it was better than Enterprise. I'd say yes for me. I haven't seen all of Enterprise. I've seen about maybe 2/3 of it. It's probably a stronger show than Enterprise. If I had to, but the rank, I've been tossing this back and forth in terms of ranking. Deep Space Nine is probably my favorite. It's a strong toss-up between the original series and Next Generation. I'm more attached to the original series just based on nostalgia and the characters, McCoy, Spock, Kirk. The Next Generation had a longer run to play and develop its characters. Some of the writing's a little bit better. So they're kind of neck and neck. Enterprise and Voyager. Enterprise slightly edges out Voyager for me just because it was somewhat different. Voyager had all the potential in the world. Voyager had incredible. It had a great hook to it. Yeah. But they didn't follow through with it the way they could have. And it ended up becoming nothing but Next Generation light. It felt like a lot of recycled plot lines from the Next Generation, but they didn't do it as well as the Next Generation did. So Voyager is probably at the bottom of the list. I'd say give it a couple more seasons to be absolutely certain, but I'd say Discovery is right in the middle for me.
Yeah. DS9 for storytelling, number 1. TNG right there, 1A. And then TOS, Voyager, Enterprise. Voyager and Enterprise could flip-flop on a given day because there were some good episodes in Enterprise. The biggest issue I had with that show was that they were beholden to things that are canonically so far past where they're trying to tell stories that they were afraid to let the characters or let the ship do anything that would have been interesting. You know, when you're sitting there watching Scott Bakula basically turn to camera and go, there will be a thing called the Prime Directive one day. There's a huge problem with that when you're 100 years forward of when that's after when that's going to happen. You know, there's a huge problem with that. And so I think Enterprise's biggest issue is that it played it so safely. So those kind of just sit there at the bottom. But I did enjoy Voyager quite a bit because I was a kid and it was more Star Trek after DS9 was gone.
Well, I am going to choose to be optimistic, despite
me too.
Despite all of the interesting ways that Star Trek has manifested itself over the years. Different directions and some things have been, spot on, and some things have hesitated. And knowing that when we watch a show, especially one that has some sort of legacy attached to it, we are coming at it with the knowledge of the love of the great shows that we have seen. Right. So we're looking at it and and especially with the internet, we have all this hype and we have all these rumors and all this stuff builds up years before it actually hits to medium where we could watch, right? Sure. So, I mean, it always reminds me of some of the most wonderful shows that I have ever loved and enjoyed and continue to watch over and over and over are ones that had a terrible first season I didn't even bother with. Or there's seasons in the middle that Parks just lack. Yeah, Parks and Rec. There's seasons that in the middle that are just boring and stupid that are now, like, I didn't watch South Park for like 4 years and I picked up last season and I thought it was hilarious, every show has their ups and downs. Sometimes it's the beginning, sometimes it's the middle, and sometimes it's the end. So I'm going to hang in there, and obviously the writers have care and knowledge and interest. So I'm hoping that it'll shake out in the writer's room, which is where all the problems originate, and it'll be great for the second season. So we're going to watch it. Okay. We're going to watch it, intern.
I can...
No, he's going to mute me again.
I was going to say, I can help you out with access or episodes. That's fine.
Legally.
Yes,
legally
of course,
only.
legally.
Yes, of course.
Are you kidding? Me do anything illegal?
No, never.
I am in the Navy, madam.
Well, all right. We better wrap this up before one of us gets arrested.
What I would do is, if I have to spend money, I would wait for it, because inevitably it's going to come out on Blu-ray. I would buy that. I think it's worth the purchase. I wouldn't want to. I don't want to justify CBS's decision to make an exclusive streaming service by paying for it. That's my biggest.
I keep
knock
waiting
on that.
for CBS to hook me for real.
The Dirty Dogs got me with Trek, and now here comes Twilight Zone on its heels, and I'm like,
see, I keep waiting. I keep waiting for CBS to really hook me, and they almost had me with that Voice of the Crowd show that was like, they had a really compelling trailer, and then I heard it was terrible. With what's his face?
Oh, Jeremy Piven.
Yeah, Piven. Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. It's a murder mystery, and it's about social media, and it's like all my favorite things. And then I was just like, boo.
Well, it was both bad, and then Jeremy Piven got hemmed up as part of the Me Too thing, and then they said, well, goodbye.
Yeah, so I am glad that we haven't made the investment earlier, but I do. Once we get into the summer months and things start to lull, and when we're between Marvel releases, because what's next? Jessica Jones, right?
Yep.
Coming up here soon. So once we're in a lull, we might have to pick up with Star Trek Discovery.
Well, and if you if you're looking for something maybe to wait on or to watch in the meantime, I guess is what I should say. I wrote the review for it up on popshow.com. Altered Carbon.
Nice.
Absolutely fantastic. Killer character work.
Really?
Yes. Shameless plug for my own writing. Thank you.
Well, you're also plugging our website. So
also
we can't
that,
complain.
see? So it's all coming full circle.
Nice.
But, yeah.
And Dean, you used to write on Pop Show. We remember when you did.
I'm not that great of a writer, so
Aw.
I have to wait for something to actually feel relevant for me to write about.
That's fair enough. Well, I have one more day to get in my February review. So apparently tomorrow I am writing on popshow.com.
What are you writing about?
Yeah.
Give us a teaser.
It's
Spoilers.
a surprise. I don't know yet.
It's whatever you coin flip in the morning.
Well, I've been thinking a lot about, I've been spending a lot of time in the gym lately, shedding for the wedding and all that. And I've been thinking a lot about the nature of treadmill shows. So I think that I might write about that, because I found that I can start a show and really like the first few episodes of a show, but if I start it on the treadmill, I won't continue with it, which is odd, because I started The Good Doctor, I started Great News. There are several shows that I said, oh, this looks interesting, yet I'm not going to finish. I don't know. There's something about being on the treadmill and having myself half distracted that I feel like I'm not giving it the attention I want. What I need to do is be on my sofa and also playing Candy Crush, and that's how I have my full focus.
It's a whole new subgenre of TV shows.
It is. It really is.
Candy Crush shows versus treadmill shows.
I mean,
who will win?
Yeah.
Your attention.
I know. So far, nobody. It's The Office for my 700th viewing of the entire series, except for Scott's Tots, which I've only ever watched once. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. You're watching us on facebook.com/popshow. You're watching us live on Tuesday nights, or you've downloaded our podcast. And from Travis, Dean, and I, and poor Keith without a mic, we want to say thank you for joining us.
Thank you for letting me talk about Star Trek for an hour.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes,
The experts were truly here this week. And you know what? I think we're going to check it out.
Good.
I think we will.
It's worth a look.
Yes.
It's just...
No, I hear you. There's something missing, but you know what? We'll find it. Follow us on Facebook, Pop Show, on Twitter @PopShow, and visit popshow.com. We will see you next week.